Boom. What is up, everybody? Hello, citizens of Gotham. Thank you for watching us. Another fantastic episode of Government Secrets is getting ready to be put into your eyes and ears. Let me move this around a little bit, get this going. I don't want that notification. Thank you so much. We haven't seen Saki in a while. Yes, I'll bring Saki back. Saki has not passed away. Saki's doing fine. I'm going to start doing more of the character stuff on just my regular political vigilante show. We'll bring back Saki and Darien and Shimshay, the whole gang. We're going to bring them back. So thank you everybody for watching on YouTube and CIA Tube and Facebook. Hello, Monica over on the Facebook, and of course, rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. Great way to support the show is to do that. And then of course, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/government secrets. It is scrolling below, where we do at the end of our regular show. We then go immediately to a Patreon members exclusive live stream at the end of the show. So you can support the show and you get someone. I don't know what I'm saying. You get an extra GovSeek segment. You get an extra seg. Saki had an accident. Saki's in rehab. Saki, let's just say he was getting that sock a little wet, if you know what I mean. Saki liked himself. He likes drinking vodka gimlets. I don't know why, but that's Saki's drink. I don't know why he likes drinking vodka gimlets. Secret assignment on the Zumwalt right away. 8 away from episode 100. I will do something exciting for episode 100. I don't know what it'll be. Maybe it's one of the live shows in Europe. Who knows? All right, folks. Like, share, subscribe. Put this out on your social media. All those little things help. And Saki went upstate. That's funny. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Government Secrets, episode 92, with the two most censored comedians in America, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood. Bum, 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 bum. I hired a band.
I told you Saki had no place on Government Secrets, all right? Saki stays on political vigilante. I do not work well with Saki. We've discussed this. We had it out.
He's hard to work with. I'm not going to lie to you. He's hard to work with. I'm just going to say it. He's an artist. So you have to kind of
diva.
He's a diva. He's a diva. I mean, I do the show with him and I try to be, he yells at me and I'm bringing him on my show. And then he you don't want to see what he says to me off camera. I mean, it's horrifying. I mean, it's like those tapes of Buddy Rich, just screaming at people on a bus.
You guys did the marriage counseling to try and get through it, I remember.
All he did was yell at me and the counselor. I mean, when a guy shows up to like relationship counseling and with a flask, I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah. And then he and Saki ended up going out drinking that night together. It wasn't a good situation.
Yeah. He got the therapist drunk. And then they got in a fight, I guess. And I don't know. Someone got arrested. I don't know. I haven't talked to Saki in a while. I heard he dried out. So I don't know. We'll see what Saki's sordid tale is. You know what I mean? But yes. Lee Camp.
How are you doing? Good to see you, man. Yeah. Good to see you.
Anything fun happened this week, buddy?
I'm trying to think if anything got censored this week. I don't have much left that they could censor.
I know, it's like you guys have basically taken everything from me. You've taken my home, you've taken my YouTube money, you've taken what else do you guys want to get? Like, really? I mean, I don't know what else they could take. Like,
yeah, I don't know. But I'm all right. I'm hanging in there.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we do my segment first?
Let's do it.
Because we have So, government secret segment number 1. Bow, bow. I focus a lot on CIA operations, which I love to do, and they're seemingly endless. But I haven't spent a lot of time, and we haven't on this show. We've talked about it, but we haven't ever done a lot of like full segments about the NSA. And I wanted to talk about NSA Room 641A, and this came out. 641A was part of this that AT&T had this special room where they basically just surveil American citizens for all of their data and information.
Isn't that the room from The Shining where he sees the dead naked woman in the bathtub? Is that?
Yes.
Is that
those two creepy twins are in there, just we're collecting your data. Yeah, this is absolutely that room in The Shining. I don't know if a lot of people realize that The Shining is basically just a documentary about NSA operations. Is really all it is. This is how they conduct themselves. They drive guys crazy, and then they, So I found many you and many viewers and listeners to the show know a lot about the NSA stuff. I'm sure everybody who listens to this show probably knows something at least about Edward Snowden and what he revealed. But this gets into more. So Room 641A, and again, I'm just reading from Wikipedia. So we always say we're not like huge advocates of Wikipedia, but we're like, if it's in Wikipedia, then there's a lot to it. There's more to it than Wikipedia is letting on, but also then it's showing you that this is public information.
It's a fact that has even busted the glass ceiling of like mainstream media.
Right. It's one of those things they go, all right, we have to acknowledge this, that it happened.
Yeah.
So we'll just make a real cursory Wikipedia page and then pretend that hopefully nobody finds it. You know what I mean?
Like, we'll say somewhere in the Wikipedia page that it's debated or something.
Right. Right. Or we'll put a line in there like I'm going to show you that's like, oh, this is a lot bigger than what they're saying. Like they'll just say, it would be like if the Wikipedia page was like on September 11th, 2001, there was some airplane malfunctions. Anyway, and it's just like, wait, what? So Room 641A is a telecommunications interception facility operated by AT&T for the National Security Agency as part of its warrantless surveillance program as authorized by the Patriot Act. The facility commenced operations in 2003, and its purpose was publicly revealed in 2006 by a whistleblower. So again, this goes back to the Patriot Act, and why we should spend just a little bit of time on the Patriot Act is and this is when you can kind of sometimes get a neoliberal's brain to see something that maybe could change their way of thinking. But it's like, remember when we didn't like George Bush for taking away our rights from the Patriot Act, and we all protested the war in Iraq? Yeah, Bush was awful. Okay. A lot of Democrats voted for the Patriot Act.
which said you were now allowed to wear American flag underwear, right?
That's all it was. It was basically, and it was funded by Underoos, is basically.
Because before that, it was considered illegal to cut the flag into Underoos, but
yeah, you were desecrating the flag if you put it too close to your junk. But now, that was how the bill was written. It was actually written that way. I think Calvin Coolidge wrote that word. He said, you can't put the flag too close to your jive. Something to that effect. So
it was, I think it was in a Johnny Cash song. Don't put the flag too close to your jive.
Don't put the flag by your junk. I've said it a long time. My Johnny Cash impression is awful. Here's how you do a Johnny Cash impression. Just go do an Elvis one, and then just bring it back a couple of notches. That's the easiest way to do Johnny Cash.
Just bring it back a notch and talk about prisoners instead of love. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Just talk about prisoners. That's it. To glorify the prison population. It's great. So and again, back to the Patriot Act. And then the other thing too that liberals just refuse to acknowledge is, okay, the Patriot Act was awful. A bunch of Democrats voted for it. And then when Obama got into office, he doubled down on that dude. I mean, he expanded it. He made it better.
Well, that was the thing. Snowden's revelations came out. So there was a big brouhaha of like, well, we're going to do something about this. We are. And then it was like a radio broadcast where he's saying like, we're going to do something about this. And then he's looking up to the people around him going, just shaking his head back and forth. Yeah. And fucking nothing changed. Nothing changed.
Well, it changed.
Nothing changed.
It's not that it didn't change. It did change. It
got
worse. It got 10 times worse. They expanded it. I mean, Obama literally expanded the surveillance state. So, this room 641A is located in the. I'm hearing an echo.
I am not.
All right. Why am I hearing an echo? Where else would I be hearing this?
Did you get hit on the head today?
Why am I hearing no, I have not been I have not been hit on the head yet today.
Okay.
Okay. Well, now it's gone. All right, the echo's gone. So I'm mildly going insane, but it's anyway. So 641A is located in the SBC Communications Building at 611 Folsom Street in San Francisco. 3 floors of which were occupied by AT&T before SBC purchased AT&T. The room was referred to in an internal AT&T documents as the SG3, Study Group 3. So I love these terms. It's a study group, Lee. You remember when you and your buddy in college, and you guys would all meet at a coffee shop to go over the big test each other on the exam? It's like that.
And really, there was just a girl in the group that you wanted to get closer to, so that's why you were pretending to study. But yeah, it's like that.
You're like, who's going to the study group? Well, it's Mike and Steve and Gwen. Oh, Gwen's there? Yeah, I'll go for sure.
It's just like all the NSA is just a big study group.
It's a study group where you're doing. Remember when you would do your study group where you would basically abandon the Constitution and surveil your fellow classmates? Like that's like this kind of a study group. I love when they sanitize these words with study group. So fantastic. It is the room is designed to intercept and analyze internet communications at a very high speed. It is fed by fiber optic lines from beam splitters installed in fiber optic trunks carrying internet backbone traffic. In the analysis of a former CTO for GTE and former advisor to the Federal Communications Commission, it has access to all internet traffic that passes through the building. And therefore, quote, this is from this guy that worked at the FCC, who was a former CTO, right? Chief Technical Officer of GTE. So he knows a thing or two about this, said, quote, the capability to enable surveillance and analysis of internet content on a massive scale, including both overseas and purely domestic traffic. So that's what was happening in the study group. The existence of this room was revealed by former AT&T technician Mark Klein and was the subject of a 2006 class action lawsuit by the Electronic Frontier Foundation against AT&T. Klein claims that he was told that similar black rooms are operated at other facilities around the country. Now, this is where WikiLeaks does its thing. So that's the only sentence. And then there's just a number 6 you can click that goes into his interview on Wired magazine. Nowhere does, that line right there.
Right.
And
it's similar to stuff that's around. This is just like things that are around.
And they did the basic thing. They sealed it off. there's a YouTube video of like a, Frontline, ABC Frontline they talked to whistleblower Mark Klein, and they did that standard thing of, boy, this is bad. We shut it down. So they're like, the NSA went, all right, just shut down room 641. Rooms, 1 through 15,000, keep those rooms going. keep those rooms going. And there's no mention.
They're like, shut that room down and move all of the stuff that intercepts all the data to another room.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it.
That's all they did. They literally just like, oh man. It's like when they do we've talked about this, they'll do the drug bust. They'll put all the drugs and the guns on the table and go, we got them. And it's just like, yeah, just so we could put this on the news, but the other customs agents and corrupt cops and CIA and FBI and whoever else is just like, yeah, but this, for every table we show on the news, there's 1,000 tables worth of shit flying through that is not getting stopped, not because we're overwhelmed and can't catch them, because we're letting it through because we're making money from it. And that's what this is. They just like, we shut down 641. Those days are over.
I was so upset when I heard what they were up to in that room. Oh, that room was dirty, I tell you.
Shut it down. No one can go in that room ever again. But the surveillance equipment.
I feel like the day I went into my 14-year-old's room and found him wanking into a Playboy. I was furious. So we nailed up his room and he moved into another room.
And we have no idea what he's doing on a smartphone, but we know we got that Playboy magazine out of there. So this is the classic. We arrest the one person or shut down the one thing, and then don't ask any more questions. So like, you would think this story, when it broke, then news outlets would have been like, all right, the first question you would ask is, how many other rooms are there? How many does Verizon have a room? Does all these T-Mobile, all these companies they must all have them. The NSA must be grabbing up data from everybody. And nobody asked that question. Nobody asked that question. They just went, but it's one little line in the Wikipedia. One little line. It's again, 641 and the country was surrounding it were subjects of an episode of Frontline. One episode of Frontline. So again, it's that same thing.
There was a time when Frontline actually did some pretty damn good shit. Yeah,
it did. And it said, but again, this is the same thing of they did one episode.
Right.
It's like you look at Watergate or the Pentagon Papers. When those things broke, back when the media was still fairly independent, fairly actually doing good, real journalists there, and they had been completely co-opted by the intelligence community in Wall Street. When one big story broke, then everybody jumped on it, right? And ran with it and talked about it for several years.
Because they knew it made them look bad to not be the ones covering it.
Right.
So when the Pentagon Papers came out, it was like the other big papers had to cover it.
They had to cover it. And they also went, well, there's more here. This is a huge story. And so we're going to find the angle that that paper didn't find. We're going to add to this story. And you've seen this time and time again in big stories, but in the last like 20, 30 years, these stories get sealed off. Well, Frontline covered it. So it's like, we covered it. We're good. We're done. There's no more discussion here. And you're saying it. I mean, here it comes.
I knew it was coming. There it is. We need a sound effect, like for the Epstein moment of every show.
Gong. Graham has connected this to Epstein or something, like pigeons are released. I don't know what's happening, but very, very briefly, and I'll get back to the NSA. It's the same thing. They're like, oh, we got him. He's caught. Maxwell got 20 years in prison. So what if R. Kelly got 30? Anyway, Maxwell, we got her. It's done. Seal it off. We've covered it. It's over. Move on. And let's move on to whatever the distraction of the day is, like AOC getting fake arrested while a bunch of Democrats approve the expansion of NATO or whatever.
Right. Right.
no one's talking about. So the class action lawsuit against AT&T on January 31st, 2006, accusing the telecommunications company of violating the law and the privacy of its customers by collaborating with the National Security Agency, is in a massive illegal program to wiretap and data mine Americans' communications. On July 20th, 2006, a federal judge denied the government's and AT&T's motions to dismiss the case, chiefly on the ground of the state secrets privilege, allowing the lawsuit to go forward. On August 15, 2007, the case was heard by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and was dismissed on December 29th, 2011. Based on a retroactive grant of immunity by Congress, which was controlled by the Democrat. This is Obama's first term, for telecommunications companies that cooperated with the government.
I love the idea of retroactive immunity. Like they've gotten caught, and then Congress goes, "Oh, you know that thing that we're doing? That's legal now. We just remembered it's legal." And then the courts are like, "Oh, look."
I actually have used this. I used in a paternity case, I said, how about a retroactive condom so the kid's not technically mine and I don't have to pay any alimony. So it's really effective. It's great. I love it. I mean, it's a good case. But then they tried to kick this up to the Supreme Court. You would think this would be something the Supreme Court would want to hear, right?
Right.
Nope. They declined it. The Supreme Court declined it. So Frontline does one story. And then when this was declined, did the, you would have thought this would have been huge news. Everyone would have been climbing all over these. No, not barely talked about, talked about. The Electronic Frontier Foundation filed a different case on September 18th, 2008, titled Jewel versus NSA, after many years of litigation. On April 25th, 2019, ruling from the Northern District of California for Jewel v. NSA concluded that the evidence presented by the plaintiff's experts was insufficient. The court confirms its earlier finding that Klein cannot establish the content, function, or purpose of the secure room at the AT&T site based on his own independent knowledge. So the ruling noted Klein can only speculate about what data were actually processed and by whom the secure room, and how and what for what purpose, as he was never involved in its operation. So this is the equivalently of, you work, let's say this guy Klein is at AT&T and he finds out there's a room where they're making meth, right? And they're selling it. They're selling meth to people. But they go,
and by room, I feel like we don't mean like a New York City apartment bedroom. Yeah. I feel like we probably mean like an Amazon warehouse room.
Yes. Like that room at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark where they store the Ark. It's like that size room.
Yes.
Just stacks of servers stealing your information. So let's say this client guy finds a room at AT&T at the exact same time, exact same building where they're making meth, and it's a massive distribution process. But the court says, well, he wasn't actually in there making meth. He doesn't know how to make meth, right, and he wasn't involved in the distribution of it. So actually what he's saying is just hearsay. That's equivalent what they did. No, I saw meth. I saw them cook it. I saw them sell it. They told me it was meth. I saw people get high from it, and they were like, threw it out. So 2 cases were dismissed. And I doubt the NSA got involved or knew the judges are in. I'm sure there's no paper trail. No. And there's nothing for a journalist to go investigate who could easily find oh, this judge was appointed by this person who was paid by this. I'm sure there's nothing like that in our court system. Everybody got a fair trial. It's not like Gong, Epstein reference, like Judge Allison Nathan, who, who was the judge in the Maxwell trial, who was appointed by Biden, Obama, and John Kerry. And she happened to be so John Kerry and George W. Bush were in the Skull and Bones, the secret society at Yale.
Yeah, like something like 90% of all our presidents have been connected to Skull and Bones or something like that.
Well, did you know there's a sister club for women called the Quill and Dagger?
I was really hoping it would be called the Skull and Badges.
Skull and Vaginas. Skull and Vaginas. She's in the Quill and Dagger. Isn't it weird that a woman that was in a secret society with John Kerry was also appointed the judge in the Maxwell case? Anyway, I doubt you could find any connections like that with any of these court cases at all, because we know our legal system is all just on the up and up, and it's the scales are.
Well, and in some cases there are direct connections like that, but in most cases you don't even need direct connections like that. These judges wouldn't get to this level if they hadn't ruled with corporate America like 100% of the time.
Right.
They wouldn't have been nominated to federal seats or whatever. So yes, at times you can find those connections, but for the ones where you can't find those directions, it's not like you're like, well, clearly then it's a legit decision.
Right. Because again, it's that sort of self-censorship of, boy, that one judge ruled against that government thing, and that guy is now in traffic court. You know, he's
yeah.
Like it's like don't buck the system, man. That's very much because. So there's that. So you go, all right, well, I better. And if you're a judge, you're very well knowledgeable in the law, so you're good at pitching or case. So you could say, well, not enough evidence was provided and this and that, or this guy wasn't valid. You can say it in a legal sense, and reference some, Johnson versus McGillicuddy in 1876. They had the same thing where, and so they can talk their way around it and give the appearance of a fair trial. So that is Room 641A, Government Secrets, NSA segment. This one will get us even more shut down.
I would love to know what's going on in Room 641B.
That one, they're just doing like balloon animals.
No, nothing. Absolutely not. It's just like two guys sitting there playing solitaire.
It's two guys who they found out what was going on in 641A, and they're like, everyone's going to be focused on that room. So we'll just go to the room next door and we can just fuck off and just not do anything and get paid to goof off.
Yeah.
And they're just they're just like lifting weights. They're watching videos, football games, and then they get paychecks. Basically, it's great.
All right. And one note before I get into my topic, it just occurred to me that when you mention Epstein in an episode, it should be like when Pee Wee Herman would say the word of the day. Like I should run across the room, just
just sirens and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we absolutely should make this the Pee Wee's Playhouse of
sexual predators.
Conspiracy So, all right, here's Lee Camp Government Secret segment number 2. Will Graham be able to somehow weave in Epstein into this segment?
So, I was reading a bit of Michael Parenti's book, Black Shirts and Reds. He's a great journalist. And I came across this a couple of paragraphs, and so I did a little more research. So here's a couple of paragraphs. They're talking about World War II and some Nazis who were not good fellas. Not good fellas.
Really? There were some, but some Nazis were okay, right?
Yeah, they're in Ukraine, and we're funding them right now. So. Those are the good ones.
Oh my God.
Oh, shit.
Hold on. I need to drink some tea from my government secrets mug that you can only get at patreon.com/government secrets. Boy, that tastes like truth.
Oh, does that help wash down a Nazi joke?
Folks, are you having a hard time swallowing a Nazi joke? Then get yourself a government secrets mug, put whatever favorite hot or cold beverage in there, and wash down a Nazi joke.
That's a little too close to reality. But what? So he says, what happened to U.S. businesses that collaborated with fascism during World War II? The Rockefeller family's Chase National Bank used its Paris office in Vichy, France, to help launder German money to facilitate Nazi international trade during the war, and did so with complete impunity. Corporations like DuPont, Ford, General Motors, and ITT owned factories in enemy countries that produced fuel, tanks, and planes that wreaked havoc on Allied forces. After the war, instead of being prosecuted for treason, ITT collected $27 million from the U.S. government for war damages inflicted on its German plants by Allied bombings. General Motors collected...
Wait, what? These assholes, what? They build factories for Germans. And when the Allies...
the German war effort.
They built machinery for the German war effort. And the United States and the Allies bombed them because they wanted to stop Nazis. And then they got financial reparations for that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, does Colonel Custard's family, is he going to get financial reparations for getting killed by like Native Americans? Like, that is the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, we'll have to. I did dig. What I was going to say is I did dig into some of this more, but I didn't dig into the reparations specifically. So we'll have to get into more. We'll have to do some more digging on the reparation part of it. It reminds me of Haiti having to pay France for escaping slavery. Haiti was in debt for decades, paying France for the slaves they lost because they rebelled and got out from under slavery.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is...
General Motors collected over $33 million. Pilots were given instructions not to hit factories in Germany that were owned by U.S. firms. Thus, Cologne was almost leveled by Allied bombing, but its Ford plant, providing military equipment for the Nazi army, was untouched. Indeed, German civilians began using the Ford plant as an air raid shelter.
I didn't think this show could blow my mind anymore. I really didn't. I really didn't think, even when I was reading the 641A thing, I was like, yeah, all right, of course, you just get the details overall. You're like, of course they were doing this. I'm not surprised by this at all. I don't think any of these segments can surprise me anymore. Oh, they covered up they had uranium, in kids' chocolate milk or whatever. Whoops. None of that surprises me. None of that surprises me. The segment I just did where when I was reading earlier before the show, how all the cases got dismissed. I'm like, nah, didn't surprise me at all. You got to be goddamn kidding me that they were told not to bomb Ford plant. And what did the bombers? They're like, oh, well, Ford's an American company, even though can you imagine? You're a young man.
They were probably told that it was an American company, but they weren't told that literally, and this is the part I'm going to get into more in a minute, literally Ford was producing armaments and shit, vehicles for the Nazi army.
Right. They were probably lied to and just said, that's an American factory. And they were like, oh, we got a factory working covert over here or something for us. Of course, the soldier gets lied to. Of course.
It's a need to know basis, Graham. And until this episode of Government Secrets, you did not need to know this.
No, I did not. And having two uncles that fought in World War II who are no longer alive, if they heard this news, they'd probably, I don't know what they'd do. You might,
it'll be weird to do this show without a co-host, but you might want to turn off now if you don't want more of the details.
Okay, should I just bring Saki out? Is this when we should just go into Saki now and just do
and stick him in your ears? Tie him around your eyes, Graham. So I did a little more research, and this is from a Washington Post article. So this is no indie blog. This is mainstream media. The year is 1998. And the title of the article is Ford and GM scrutinized for alleged Nazi collaboration. And they say, like Swiss banks, which are well known for having, worked with Nazis to stash their gold and everything. Like the Swiss banks, the American car companies have vigorously denied that they assisted the Nazi war machine or that they significantly profited from the use of forced labor at their German subsidiaries during World War II.
Lee Camp. Frozen.
Hello.
Lee?
Yeah.
All right, you froze for a second. You're better now. I thought, honestly, that was just my subconscious going, I don't want to hear anymore. So
you were like, did it freeze or did I freeze? Yeah.
Maybe I froze. Maybe my brain, like you were streaming fine, and my brain just went, shut it down. We can't hear anymore. We're done.
Shut it down.
Go to the beach and never come back and just surf away and never. Oh, you froze again. Lee froze again. This is great.
What's weird is for me, it looks like you freeze, but I don't know what it looks like for viewers, but
I don't know. Yeah, this is for me, it's you're freezing, but for you, it's I'm freezing.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Mr. Wonderful in the chat says Graham is freezing. So, yeah.
It looks like I'm freezing. God damn it. Couldn't Lee have one technical problem once? Just one time? Can the technical problem not be mine? Just fucking one time? Jesus. Like, Lee can't have a sound. Something can't be fucked up on Lee's side of the table. Just fucking once. All right.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry. So they deny this, but historians and lawyers researching class action suits on behalf of former prisoners of war are busy amassing evidence of collaboration by the automakers with the Nazi regime. So this is from a historian who studied the automaker for 2 decades. General Motors was far more important to the Nazi war machine than Switzerland was. Switzerland was just a repository of looted funds. GM was an integral part of the German war effort. The Nazis could have invaded Poland and Russia without Switzerland. They could not have done it without GM. General Motors and Ford insist they bear little or no responsibility for the operations of their German subsidiaries, which controlled 70% of the German car market at the outbreak of the war. But as we get into, they repeatedly retooled their factories to help the Nazi war effort. In certain instances, American managers of both GM and Ford went along with the conversion of their German plants to military production at a time when U.S. government documents show they were still resisting calls by the Roosevelt administration to step up military production in their plants at home. So in the U.S., they're fighting the Roosevelt administration to not retool their plants to help the war effort. And in Nazi Germany, they're retooling their plants to help the war effort. And Graham is frozen, but I'm pretty sure that's his face right now.
I can't even, there's not one stone unturned in the history of the United States where there isn't a fat, greedy, horrific lie. Like, not one, not even these companies were fighting to, making armaments to fight the Nazis so that our GI boys could. No, they still went for profit. This whole country, they did the thing of the classic, what companies love doing is, we'll just support both sides. We'll make money selling to both sides. And if everybody wipes each other out like a bookmaker.
Like as the war is approaching and as they're seeing what the Nazis are doing, they're thinking, well, even if we're not fans, that makes a lot of money. There's a lot of money to be made.
hey, there's money to be made. It's just like, it's unreal. Oh, there's profit. Like,
I'll tell you what doesn't hate the Jews, this money. You know? Like,
just, it is insane. Like, capitalism is a insane, it's a psychosis. It's a death cult. Like, literally, people on both sides dying and killing each other, but hey, we're making money.
yeah.
And then they have and then of course cover it up. And then all of these guys had the audacity then during World War II and afterwards to put out all this propaganda saying we were helping our American boys fight overseas, building armaments to stop the Nazis and Mussolini, right? They had all that crap. That's what I remember seeing, all those movie tone.
Oh yeah, and Ford had ads about how they were like helping the American war effort and everything.
And Henry Ford, who's like on record as being like racist and anti-Semitic, like on record as saying that.
Yes, and about that, Hitler had a portrait of life-size portrait of Henry Ford in his office in Munich, and gave Henry Ford in 1938 the nation's highest decoration for foreigners, the Grand Cross of the German Eagle.
Wow. Is that hanging up at a factory somewhere in Detroit right now? Or where's that?
Yeah.
Wow. So then again, it's just like Ford, definitely agreed with him ideologically, but more importantly, hey, there's money to be made here. Like, let's cozy up to this. Like, again, cozy up to a fascist, insane dictator because it's good for business. Like,
yeah. And so this article gets into it a little more. They say when American GIs invaded Europe in June 1944, they did so in jeeps, trucks, and tanks manufactured by the big three motor companies in one of the largest crash militarization programs ever undertaken. It came as an unpleasant surprise to discover that the enemy was also driving trucks manufactured by Ford and the GM subsidiary Opel, 100% GM owned. And they were flying Opel-built warplanes. So GM is making their trucks and their planes, some of them, and Ford is making their vehicles. And when the U.S. Army liberated the Ford plants in Cologne and Berlin, they found destitute foreign workers confined behind barbed wire and company documents extolling, quote, the genius of the Führer, according to reports filed by soldiers at the scene. A U.S. Army report by investigator Henry Schneider accused the German branch of Ford of serving as an arsenal of Nazism, at least for military vehicles, with the consent of the parent company in Michigan.
Wow. And did that guy try to testify and then he slipped and fell on a bag of knives or something like that?
He did. He stabbed himself 16 times in the back of the head. Yeah. The relationship of Ford and GM to the Nazi regime goes back to the roaring 1920s and 1930s. Hitler was, and here's the thing, it's like even before, and I'm sure some people want to go, well, they tried to distance themselves once the U.S. got involved in the war. And it's like, dude, people knew what the Nazis fucking stood for before the U.S. entered the war, or even before Hitler started the war. Like, he was pretty clear on what he wanted and what he stood for. He wasn't real secretive.
And there was plenty of white Americans who were like, he's got some good points. I mean, like, there's one of the reasons why Charlie Chaplin made that movie, The Dictator, was because he saw how awful and scary Hitler was in the 30s and was having conversations with Americans who were like, no, man, he's just going to restore Germany and take care of, the white man has been trampled and he's going to help them. And it's like, there's a scene in the Robert Downey Jr. movie where he played Chaplin, where he's at a party in New York and there's people like, no, Hitler's all right. And then somebody's wearing like a Nazi pin at a party. And that happened. There were people here that were like, yep.
Did I cover this I might have covered this on a previous government secret, but before the war, I don't know what year it was, the Nazi party had rallies in like Madison Square Garden.
Oh, yes. We have talked about that. Yes, in
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden. They had a
Yeah.
Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden, and it wasn't like there was 9 people there booing. It was like packed, you know. And somebody same for Mussolini in the chat. New York Times promoted fascism. Yeah, there was a lot of people who were like, "No, man, we're down with Mussolini. We're down with Hitler. We're down with what they're doing." And so,
yeah. I mean, and it speaks to why the U.S. was so late into the war, and why they didn't bomb the fucking train lines headed to the concentration camps. So to continue from this article, Hitler was an admirer of American mass production techniques and an avid reader of the anti-Semitic tracts penned by Henry Ford. Quote, "I regard Henry Ford as my inspiration," Hitler told a Detroit News reporter 2 years before becoming the German chancellor, explaining why he kept a life-size portrait of the American automaker next to his desk. Although Ford later renounced his anti-Semitic writings, because I guess it started to look bad during World War II, he remained an admirer of Nazi Germany and sought to keep America out of the war. In July 1938, 4 months after the German annexation of Austria, he accepted the highest medal that Nazi Germany, so this is after the annexation of Austria, he accepted the highest medal that Nazi Germany could bestow on a foreigner, the Grand Cross of the German Eagle. The following month, the senior executive for General Motors, James Mooney, received a similar medal for his distinguished service to the Reich. For the granting of such awards reflected the vital place that U.S. automakers had in Germany's increasingly militarized economy. GM in 1935, GM agreed to build a new plant near Berlin to produce the aptly named Blitz truck, which would later be used by the German army for its Blitzkrieg attacks on Poland, France, and the Soviet Union. German Ford was the second largest producer of trucks for the German army after GM, according to the U.S. Army reports. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And then it goes on to say, like, as the war approaches, they try and kind of, make it, they try and make it look like they're not as connected to these subsidiaries. And they come up with deals to allow the Reich to increase access to large quantities of raw materials, notably rubber. One armaments chief told him that Hitler would have never have considered invading Poland without the synthetic fuel technology provided by GM. So it becomes difficult for the corporations to operate in Germany. like honestly, it's not that they were like, these guys are really bad and assholes and they're killing people and they're anti-Semitic and everything else. It was just that they were like, it's becoming somewhat difficult for us to keep operating there. So under intense pressure from Berlin, both companies took pains to make their subsidiaries appear as German as possible. And so really, they just made the subsidiaries German because the Germans didn't like the idea of an American company there. The Nazis were like, hey, this is a bad look, you guys being American and all. Could you look a little more German? And so they were like, yeah, we got you. No problem, brother.
So they just changed the name of Ford to like Ford line or something like that, or
Ford kept the name, but claimed it was entirely different management, and GM changed their name to Opel. In 1939, the German Ford made a personal present to Hitler of 35,000 Reichsmarks in honor of his 50th birthday. So they were giving him cash in a bag in honor of his 50th birthday. Documents show that the parent companies followed a conscious strategy of continuing to do business with the Nazi regime. So the parent companies were involved. They tried to act like they weren't at all. Like, we have no idea what's going on over there. It's crazy. But of course, they were still involved and still connected. Less than 3 weeks after the Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia in 1939, the GM chairman, Alfred Sloan, defended his strategy as sound business practice, given the fact that the company's German operations were, quote, highly profitable.
Wow. So America basically has always just been kind of a little Nazi hub. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's always had that. It's always had that little Nazi white supremacist, from even the Christopher Columbus colonization. They thought we're the master race, so we're just going to murder these indigenous people. Like it's always been here. Like America's always been this.
Yeah, like America writ large saying we're like anti-fascist is like Iron Man saying he's anti-robot. Like it's still there. It's like the heart of him. It's like he'd be dead without it. It's just...
Yeah, he'd be dead without it.
And so, you know, they go into the details of how it's clear from various papers and documents that the American General Motors manager or CEO was aware and part of the retooling of some of these factories. By 1941, the American stake in German Ford had declined to 52%, but that still means they were still the owner of it because they got 52%. A memorandum of plant managers dated November 1941 acknowledged that giving it fully over to Germany would deny German Ford of, quote, the excellent sales organization of the parent company.
I love that they're like, we got to dial this back, but not below 52%. I mean, we're still going to have control, like still the capitalists through and through, like this is a bad look. We're not going to sell it all and just be like, we don't know what happened, or things went bad, or the Nazis took it over and we didn't know what happened. They're like, now we got to keep the money. And
it just so much comes down to money. Whether these guys were straight up fascists or not, they were just like, well, it's just hashtag capitalism. You know, in 1940, Mooney, the I think GM head, told journalists that he would not return his Nazi medal, the highest medal from the Nazi government, because such an action might offend Hitler and jeopardize GM's $100 million investment in Germany.
Oh, well, you don't want to offend Hitler.
No, you don't.
Everything with America is just money, and America will do anything for money. And this is one of the most egregious examples of it. You think like like the overthrowing of the coup, the CIA backed coup of like Mossadegh in Iran, right? You think that's pretty awful, and that was for money. And we put the Shah in there. This is nothing. I mean, that seems like, rigging somebody's neighborhood poker game, is, you know what I mean? Versus what we just did in with the Nazis and backing them and building armaments that then fought against our own guy. Like, if it not for GM and Ford, the Nazis might not have had the strength and the machinery to roll through Poland.
I mean, almost definitely not. It sounds like, and there's a quote from Hitler saying that without GM technology, he wouldn't have invaded. Like, and then there's the profiting thing, which I do think we should research more. But Ford has backed away from its initial claim that it did not profit from the forced labor at its German plants. But company historians are still researching this issue, but have found documents showing that after the war, American Ford received dividends from its German subsidiary worth roughly $60,000 from the years 1940 to 1943. And here's another quote from an economic historian at the University of Pittsburgh. Both Opel and Ford did absolutely everything they could to ingratiate themselves to the Nazi state. And Ford particularly also fought against, like I mentioned, specifically fought against doing the same retooling for the American and British forces that they were doing in Germany. In 1940, after the fall of France, this is after the fall of France, Henry Ford personally vetoed a U.S. government-approved plan to produce under licensed Rolls-Royce engines for British fighter planes. Henry Ford personally tried to get in the way of the war effort to produce British fighter planes after the fall of France.
And I mean, I wish we could even. I mean, this is the information that we know. This is the information that's public record. You gotta. Right. I wish there was like minutes or recordings from the meetings where Henry Ford was like, "Well, now that France is down, we can set up some more factory. Whatever. Like, well, hopefully he'll roll through Russia, and then we can really start making some money. Just like what was said." And they had a contingency plan, like why I'm gonna, I'm the Fuhrer's boy. So if America loses, we're still up and running in the States. If America's like taken over by the Nazis, they had that conversation.
We're still going strong. People will have, what happens after your country is taken over by Nazis? People need cars. They want cars. So yes. we'll be there ready to go.
Wow. This,
That's just the stuff we know, have proof of, right. And that's the coverage from the Washington Post.
Right, exactly. That's just the mainstream media coverage, and this book that you referenced that was, that have been written. This is just what we know. It's horrible.
Yeah. The non-Washington Post coverage probably has a photo of Henry Ford in a party hat standing outside the Holocaust Museum.
Yeah.
That's the non-Washington Post coverage.
Just his 50th birthday was just a big swastika cake or whatever they made for him. You know what I mean? And everybody's saying Deutschland über alles while they, covered him in jelly and he had a sex party or something. I don't know, whatever. But like, this is, which is why it shows like all of the fascism and the neo-Nazi stuff that is so prevalent in America today, even in the highest levels of government, are it's not surprising. It's not like, like, how did this happen? Because we've been involved with this on a financial level, and ideologically, many people have been on the level of fascism and Hitler for a long time. I mean, the conquest of the Native Americans was a lot of it was based in white supremacy. I mean, so it's like, oh, well, the people that were wearing neo-Nazi stuff on January 6th, this doesn't seem that shocking now, does it?
I know. That seems rather tame. But no, our mainstream media will be like, don't pay attention to anything except January 6th.
Yeah. It's like, and Steve Bannon and all this is like, oh, he's sort of the watered down version of what Henry Ford was doing.
Yeah.
Wow. This is.
So there you have it. Good old, these are the American bread and butter companies. And it's amazing that after all that, they didn't even bother to change their name.
No.
Like at the very least, Ford should have been renamed, red, white, and fucking big trucks or something. Like,
right. Eagle Claw Motors or something like that. It should have been called that, The hot
I think the Nazis like their eagles too.
Yeah. That was Hitler's bunker, was Eagle's Nest, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's the thing it tells you to do is always assume there's a corrupt money angle to everything. Like always. And even wrapped in it, they will be like doing some, like, you could say, yes, Ford and GM made a lot of stuff that helped American GIs win the war. Yes, you can, absolutely true. And like, that's the thing about this, is so many things can be true at the same time. And that's how I believe they're able to get away with this. That's how they don't have to change their name, because they can say, because it's always that, like, they know most humans don't want to face the reality of what I just said, where I always like freeze up and go, no way. I think most people, when I'm confronted with that, I go, no way. And then I'm like, I always want to know. You and I are the same. We like want to know the truth. As difficult as it is, I don't care. I want to know the truth. I think most people, especially Americans, because they've been so propagandized by American exceptionalism and we're the good guys, when they're confronted with that, they just go, no. They open up the door to room 641A and go, nope.
They go, yeah, actually, does anyone want a piece of cake? How about we all have some cake? Cause I just, is anybody, I have some, I just finished baking it. And I'm going to close the room to this door. I mean, the door to this room right here.
I never opened this door. So we're in 641B having cake and we're playing Jenga, and it's going to be a great night. Pop on in. I think that's America. I say this all the time. It's like finding out, if you found out a close family member, somebody you loved and cared, and they were like a serial killer or a pedophile or something like that, there's a part of you that would just want to go, no, I just don't want to believe it. And you would just, some people just go, nope. And that's what people do with America when confronted with this awful information.
Yeah. It's like, for a lot of people, it's like walking in on your parents having sex. I think they're just like, I'm going to try and scrub that from my brain, and I'm never going in that room again.
Yep. Didn't happen. Nope. Okay. Just let's go to the grocery store and see what frozen pizzas are on sale. You know, I think it's just people like, oh, look, we'll just get generic grape soda. That looks fun. And then just go down the aisle and that's it. Yeah.
So for those of you who want to join us, we have an extra segment or two over at patreon.com/government secrets. And this week, I'm actually going to tell you what they are. We're going to cover the Preparedness Day bombing in San Francisco. Bet you don't know much about that, and who got blamed for it. And also something about the Great Railroad Strike of 1877 that may involve a little bit of murder.
What? Somebody got murdered at a strike? No way. And I'm going to just take a guess, and we'll everybody go over to Patreon and see if I'm right, that the group that was blamed, were they maybe like a minority group or people of color or socialists or something?
Oh, you're getting closer. You're getting so close.
Oh, I can't wait.
You're on the cusp.
Oh boy, I knew it. Oh, they're either socialists or people of color or both, or some sort of communist. They were lefty activists. The activists got blamed.
Oh, he's right there. He's right there.
Oh, I love this game. All right, folks. So yeah, head on over to patreon.com/government secrets. And we appreciate your support. Next weekend, I'm on the road with Ron Placone. We are doing Portland, July 28th, Seattle, July 29th, and Vancouver, Canada, July 30th. Go to grahamelwood.com for tickets. I don't know that Ron and I, when we're going to be doing live shows again together. So please check that out. Also, I'm taping my comedy special in Chicago, October 26th. I know it's a ways out, but it's at grahamelwood.com because it's at the downtown Zanies, which is a cool, intimate little like 150 seat room. So you want to get your tickets now. And Lee and I will be announcing some European dates soon. So
that is right. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. If you want a mug or t-shirt or whatever, that's at Patreon Government Secrets.
Yeah, go to patreon.com. You get the mug, the t-shirt, the Government Secrets sticker. That's just for joining at any level. You can support us for as little as $5, and everybody gets the same bonus content. Excuse me. So check that out. This has been Government Secrets, episode 92 with Lee Graham and Graham Elwood, the two most censored guys in America, which is a country built on lies and murder. So
see you later.
See you later. All right, folks. Real quick, let me just Alfred Das Liebe, Shaving Knuckles for Justice. Thank you for supporting us at rockfin.com/GrahamElwood. GM Ford, we need to denazify to help our business. Cough. Sorry, upnazify. We need to upnazify for our business. Carrie Nanstead, Shaving Knuckles for Justice. Funny. Thank you so much for supporting us over at rockfin.com. Please, we will be over at patreon.com/government secrets in like 2 minutes. Join us over there. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everyone in the chat. Kate was not able to work it. She's got a new job. So thanks, everyone. All right, we'll see you over at patreon.com/government secrets. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Oh, I forgot to do this. I always forget to do this. Dang it, my fault. Bye.